Hey, what's up? I'll tell you what's up. Today I have the pleasure to be with Helena. Hi Helena, how are you?
Hi, thank you. I'm fine, and you?
I'm great, thank you very much. So, you have a YouTube channel about fashion design and luxury goods called Les Carnets d'Helena. You are French and you now live in Geneva. Actually, the first video I came across on your channel was precisely the one explaining how to successfully move to Switzerland. And after that, for some reason, I got a lot of suggestions from the YouTube algorithm showing videos of French YouTubers who live in Geneva and who brag about their salary on their thumbnail and things like that. And it's interesting because there are a lot of similarities between French people coming to Montreal in Canada, where I live, and people going to Switzerland, so we'll talk about that. But first of all, just to set the context, where in France do you come from?
I come from Reims. It's a city located in the Champagne region. If you've never been there or your community, go there because it's really wonderful. It's really beautiful. So I come from Reims, but I was born in Cameroon, in Yaoundé, and I moved to Reims at the age of 8 years old. And then I studied there. I studied especially marketing and luxury management at a business school.
Oh, wow. So you have a very international background. How many languages do you speak?
So I speak different languages, of course, English that I studied at school, French, of course, but also Spanish. I decided to study Spanish at school because in France, and I think it's very common in other European countries, you can choose two languages. You have English, which is very mandatory, and then you can choose between Spanish and German. So for me, I decided Spanish, and it helped me a lot, especially when I was looking for a job, because I was really able to speak Spanish. And just recently, I decided to study German because I wanted to explore, to, increase my skills. And I also thought that maybe speaking different languages would be very great for my resume, for my portfolio, and increase my chances to move abroad, because this is the topic about Switzerland, and I think it was very helpful. And I also studied Japanese because I really love the Japanese culture. So I'm a bit like, exploring, trying things, and yes.
That's amazing. Do you want to say something in Japanese for people who are, because I have a lot of followers who are into Japanese. Konnichiwa.
Of course. Konnichiwa. Minasan. O genki desu ka?
Awesome. I love it. Sorry. Back to the topic. What made you decide to move to Switzerland?
Actually, I moved to Switzerland for one reason. It was for a job, because I was looking for a job, especially in Europe, Germany, Switzerland, Austria, and so on, because of course I had the German background, and I had the opportunity to join Switzerland thanks to a job within the luxury and watchmaking industry. So for me, it was really a dream, because I was going to a country which is so prestigious, which is the symbolism of know-how, excellence, and watchmaking, of course. And also I was able to work in digital marketing, so it was really a dream for me. It was like the perfect match.
Out of curiosity, did you go to Switzerland before moving there as a tourist or just to visit?
No, I never visited Switzerland before. It was really, when I had this opportunity, it was the first time of my life.
And did you travel a little bit? Did you go to Lausanne? Did you go to other even German-speaking parts or Italian-speaking part?
Yes, of course, I traveled a bit, because I think it's very important when you go to a country like Switzerland. There are three main languages, and every canton is so different. So of course I wanted really to explore and to go to other cantons, because I'm in a canton which is like French speaking, but I wanted to visit, for instance, Zurich, of course, and also Bern, Lucerne. So yes, I visited other part of Switzerland, and also Ticino, so le Tessin, more in the south, which is the Italian part, and it's completely different. The way people are living, even the mentality, everything is so different. Of course, there are some cliche, about what type of person lives in this part of Switzerland, in Zurich, and so on. But I think it's it's very nice because it helped me to really embrace the Swiss culture, to really understand the culture. Because as I moved here, I'm not in my country, so I think it's kind of my role to understand the country, respect, of course, and go to other people, to other cultures in order to understand them. And then it helps me also a bit to fit more to the society.
Now, how was it personally moving there, financially, on all levels? Because I know it's pretty difficult to find a place to live, especially in Geneva. Did you know anyone before moving there, for example, or did you just go and figure it out yourself?
To be honest, it was very difficult. It's a lot. You really need to search for the apartment. I did everything on my own, so I didn't really have any help or person located in Geneva or in Switzerland who could help me. I did everything by my own. Of course, there are some groups on Facebook. It was really, really helpful, and I recommend that to people who are willing to move to Switzerland. Just go on the Facebook groups. There are people who are really active, and they can give you advice, share with you some information, or where can I find an apartment in this canton, and then they connect you. This was so helpful. And then, yes, I mean, on the financial part, it was also a bit difficult, but of course, I think most of the companies help you. Like, they know you are not from the country, they know you are a foreigner, and most of the time they help you also.
Did you live in France and work in Switzerland at the beginning, or you moved directly to Geneva?
I moved directly to Geneva. I take the train. It was really a complete long story, but I really changed my life going to Switzerland. So I left a bit everything behind me. And as I said, I really had to search for myself. Of course, the company was helping me, but also some groups on Facebook. And I would say that if you living in France and moving to Switzerland can be a shock, because everything is a bit more expensive. So I think you should be aware of that. It was very difficult, at the beginning, because having absolutely nobody who can help me, it was very, very difficult. Yeah.
Some people might be upset about this question, but I know that in Quebec, for example, a lot of people don't particularly like the huge wave of French immigrants. Some say, especially older generations who are a bit more conservative, you can hear them say they steal our jobs and marry our women, things like that. I know it's also a bit the case in Geneva. And I was just wondering, what would you recommend to a French person or anyone in the European Union? Because I believe it might be the same for German or Italian people working in Switzerland. What would you recommend?
I think that if someone wants to go to Switzerland, it's very important to respect the culture, again, to really understand where your place is, because you are in their country, so you need to accept the difference, you need to respect the cultures and be humble. One thing also I would like to say is that there are so many rules, in Switzerland, for instance, there are so many rules, just like you don't cross the street when it's red, I used to do that like so many times in France or anywhere in the world, and I know it's bad, but in Switzerland you could, this is part of the things that you shouldn't do, otherwise people will really look at you, but not because you're a bad person or what. It's just that you need to respect, some rules like that. And I learned that. Hopefully I have some colleagues who kind of explains me, those little rules that are not written in the books, but that you experience once you are there. So I would say that it's really important to be aware that there are some differences, and you should kind of respect that. And also that no matter the country you want to visit or you want to live in, it's really important to be aware that there is not only one way of thinking, or one culture. It's really important to understand the people, be humble, and understand the fact that Swiss people actually are very smart. This was really my feeling. They are very, very aware of what's going on, in the other countries. For instance, I was moving to Switzerland when there was this movement, you know, of the strikes in Paris and in France and of the Gilets jaunes and everything. So they are very aware of what's going on in the other countries. You know, there are so many neighborhoods, and like they know what's happening in France, in Germany, in Italy, and so on. So when I moved to Switzerland, I was like not trying to show too much that I'm French, you know. So yeah, it's just something like that. Like be aware that they probably know a lot about also your country and your culture. So don't try to show off or to say I'm better than you and so on, because you are in their country. And I think it's really important to respect that, to respect the fact that, like, for me, Switzerland brings me so many things, like professionally speaking, also financially speaking, because to be honest, I went to a business school, so I have a loan and everything. So I'm very grateful for what the country brings to me. So I think it's really my advice.
Thank you so much for sharing. How long have you been living in Switzerland now?
It's been now 3 years.
And do you feel integrated? Because I know that Geneva is very international, so I expect you to have a lot of international people in your surroundings. But how do you feel after 3 years?
Yes, well, I would say that it's difficult, you know, to really integrate to the Swiss culture. It's really difficult also to approach the real local Swiss person. Let's say that in some part of the country, especially in Geneva, you have so many international people. So it's easier, you know, to meet someone from Spain, from Italy. But it's true that, yes, I would say that maybe there is a kind of distance between the Swiss and the other persons. Sometimes it can be also the language. And yes, I would say that it's a bit difficult, yeah.
From what I understand, you got your job first before moving, and then after that you decided to do all the procedures. How wild or how impossible would it be, according to the current market, for a person to go to Switzerland and try to find a job there?
I would say that unfortunately there are some rules also to respect, or some steps to do. It's true that when I had the job, for instance, I was looking for an apartment in Switzerland. But the problem is that I was outside the country. And I really noticed that I had less opportunities to be contacted by the people there, you know, because I was outside of the country. So I think it's the same for a job. Maybe the first thing to do is, of course, to have the financial security. And really, whenever you can, whenever you have the time, go to the country. Maybe you know someone from your family or relatives, and just go to the country and really try to look for a job there. Because I know that for instance, for some people who are not from Europe, it's really harder. Or for some people who doesn't have a degree, for instance, it becomes even harder. Or if you don't speak the language, if you don't speak French, if you don't speak German, Italian, it's really, really harder. So the thing is that, also on my channel, people contact me and ask me how can I do to move there and so on. The thing is that moving to Switzerland can be how can I say that? Not very difficult, but I would say a bit kind of selective, you know. If you have this criteria on your resume and that you are already in the country, it's easier, you see. So I would say that do what you can, maybe to increase your language, maybe to get to know a bit more the country. It's also super important, for instance, for the Swiss person. They are really, really attached to their country, to their culture. So I would say that, yes, you just don't wake up like that in the morning in France or no matter where and just say, I want to work in Switzerland. Yes, but what are your connections? What are the steps? What do they value more if you want to move there? So yes, there are some steps. Unfortunately, it can be very difficult, but everybody can do it if he really wants it.
What do you like the most about Switzerland?
I think that I really love the fact that Switzerland is like not only one country, but it's so many cultures, so many things, you know, differ from one canton to another one. I think that I really love that I can go and travel to Zurich, and I see how people are different, how the city, the architecture is different. You know, I really love the fact that I'm in a place, I'm in a country where I can be always amazed, fascinated by things. So this I really love, and I would say that the Swiss person are also very, very polite. For me, it was really something I experience every day, and they say hello, you know, when you are in the street, when you walk.
I was just trying to think what would happen in Paris or in the suburbs if you try to say hello to someone, to a stranger. They'd be like, what's your problem, right? I know that they do enjoy their lives, but they're also very work-oriented. And it's no surprise for us French people who are used to working 35 hours per week. Sometimes they would work 40 or more. And in Japan, because you have also experience in Japan, maybe not professionally, but it's also part of the culture not to leave because it's rude to leave before everybody else. Is there a bit of that in Switzerland too? Like you have to stay just to stick with the team? Or no, it's my well-being first. I did my time. The job is done. I can go. How does it work with that?
It's a bit of mix of both, you know, because we are all coming from different countries and we all have also our background, you know, working in France, working in Italy and everything. How does it work? So I would say that there is a bit of, okay, I need to stay a bit longer in the office, you know, to say that I need to work more than the others. But also, and this is really great, and I discovered it in Switzerland, you can work from home or go a bit earlier because you want, for instance, to enjoy the lakes, because you want to go hiking and so on, or to do sport. So I think that it's really a mix, you know. But it's true, and you mentioned that the sport and the personal part time is really important, and I think it's even more important here than in France, for instance.
Did you feel any cultural shocks when you started living in Switzerland?
Yes, but there are some cultural shocks that I experiences, but I would say that it's more in the good way. Like, for instance, what I found is that the Swiss person are very, very calm. You know, they, like we as French people, we really have our cliche. We are seen as people who are more, let's say, who have more personality. Sometimes we can argue and everything for nothing. But I would say that in Switzerland, it's so impressive. It's so crazy how people always stay calm. Like if you are going to the street, you can never experience a fight or people arguing between them. There is always a kind of respect and passions, and I really, really enjoy it in Switzerland. So this is the first thing, and of course the fact that the Swiss person are so polite. I would say that it's the first time of my life I see people who are so polite and respectful. There is also another cultural shock I experienced, and I think it can motivate people who are really willing to move to Switzerland. It's the fact that the lunch break are really, really respected. Like I was sometimes going to the lakes with my manager during lunch break, you know, and it's really impossible. I never experienced that before. It's the fact that you eat like 30 minutes and the 30 other minutes you can do roller skate. I did that also near the lakes. You can go to the lakes, you can swim. You know, I really love this culture, the fact that the personal life really matters. And also during winter time, for instance, we also sometimes go to the mountains and ski, and I would say that it had a plus, it had something to the classic work-life balance we know. You know, here it's really a work-life balance, and I really, really enjoy that.
Oh, wow, you make me want to move now. But to be honest, we also do have that in Canada, so... This is more a linguistic question. How long did it take for you to adapt from 70 to 70 and 90 to 90? I think that's the part where French people, you can really recognize when someone is really becoming Swiss when they say that naturally, you know?
Yes, it's a good question. It's a very good question, and I think for us French people or French speaking, we really struggle when we move to Switzerland, and people say no, you need to pronounce things this way, you know. Otherwise, again, it's like you don't want to respect or you don't want to integrate, you know, to the culture. I think it took me like 3 months. 3 months,
Okay,
yeah,
well, still.
yeah, to change my brain and pronounce things how they pronounce. It's really difficult, you know. It's simple word, but when you face two numbers, for instance, at work, so basically every day, and you do again and again the mistake, and yes, it's really difficult.
I mean, because yeah, learning a new language, it's difficult, but then it's the language you grew up with and you're used to, and then you have to switch a few words here and there, and especially numbers. Like, I don't know, if you were born in 1995, then you have to say 95 instead of 95, you know? But I mean, you get used to it, and then after that you go back to France, and then you're so used to it that you use Septante Nonante and people make fun of you back there. It would be great if people could just use one system for numbers, but...
I agree.
But it makes more sense, you know, because it's simpler also for people who are learning French. I guess it's easier if they go to Switzerland.
That's true.
So now we're concluding with the rapid fire questions. Very easy questions. I'll give you 2 or 3 choices and you just pick one, the first thing that comes to mind. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right, so books or movies?
Movies.
Do you ride motorcycles?
No, and I've never done that.
Romantic, horror, or action movies?
Action movies.
Hiking or getting tanned on the beach?
Hiking.
Dancing or singing?
Dancing, for sure.
Do you play a musical instrument?
No, unfortunately no, but I played a bit of piano a few years ago.
What's your favorite color?
Maybe it's blue.
Chocolate, strawberry, or vanilla?
Chocolate.
Tea or coffee?
I'm a coffee person.
YouTube or Instagram?
Oh, okay. This is hard. Yes, this is hard. Well, I would say YouTube.
Thank you so much for accepting my invitation and sharing your experience in Switzerland. I wish you all the best for the future. So guys, follow Les Carnets d'Helena on social media, and I'll see you very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
That's it for today, guys. If you think this video was helpful, please let me know with a thumbs up and in the comments. And of course, it'd be awesome if you could share and subscribe to support this channel.